apply to pretty much any question that's brought up or any debate that you enter into. Um, that's I kind of want to poke at that, probe it, figure out if that would apply to certain questions that I have for myself. That being like, if I were going to engage with someone in a podcast and it was about a topic such as, is the earth flat? Did we go to the moon? Should we be treating Nazis and white supremacists as like, equal people like across the board, like in everything, socially accept them, that kind of thing. I'm opening up a whole can of worms on that, mainly because I don't know how to answer these questions or really like make hard, fast rules that I feel like, yep, these are good, these are strong, and we should be living by this. Just going back to the United States, with the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and our amendments, and how like it's basically a system set up for treating everybody as equals, no matter what. And there's no asterisk there about racism or classism or anything like that. So I should really focus my first question more, maybe treat that as like a prelude for the whole thing. But like, so I've seen you've invited flat earthers on your channel, and you've had debates, discussions with them before. Do you ever worry that you're giving them a platform?
No, I don't think that's really a big concern. I don't think that giving people a platform, no matter how abhorrent their ideas may be, is a bad thing. I think that I'm a very strict free speechist. I think that pretty much all free speech should be just protected, not just from government persecution or conviction, but also from private company persecution. So like I think that if you're in your home or in a public area and you say the N word or whatever, I don't think a company should be able to fire you for that. I don't think they should be able to ban you for that. I think that unless you're actually like on the platform or working on the job, and they can fire you for whatever you do on those. But if you're in your own private property or on a public space outside of those properties, as long as you're not violating any laws, I don't think that anyone should be able to ban you or silence you or to have any consequences in your personal life outside of that. So I'm a really strict free speechist. I think that giving people a platform is a good thing, not a bad thing. If there's a risk that some people may be attracted to those ideas, which is generally the concern with giving abhorrent ideas platform, is like, oh, well, what if you attract more people to the idea and it gains traction? Well, I think that's an indication that your counter arguments are crap. I think that's really the bigger concern, is that the reason it's a problem that people can be attracted to abhorrent ideas is because the counter arguments are just that garbage. It's not very compelling. And so if people are being brought into those ideas, it's really more of a critique of your fault, your argumentation, not a critique of the fact that you're platforming them. That's not really the issue. The issue is that, well, maybe your arguments aren't that good. Maybe you should really actually think about their position. And so I'm definitely not opposed to platforming essentially anybody, as long as it doesn't violate TOS or whatever, as long as I don't get banned. But yeah, because I'm a super hardcore free speechist. I think that everybody should have the right to speak whatever their ideas are. And if some people are attracted to those ideas, they have the right to be attracted to those ideas. And you don't have the right to like ban them from being able to listen to those ideas if they want to.
Um, yeah. So I totally agree with you. If somebody's acting under the banner of a company or representing a company, and then they're like sharing some kind of ideals that I guess the company doesn't want to be associated with, then yeah, like if somebody's in the line of business of PR and they're going out there and they're dropping the N-bomb or something like that over and over while representing the company, I think that makes sense. What do you think about the idea, though, of the company basically being treated like a person with rights? So if they chose they didn't want to be associated with an employee anymore. I mean, I guess there's that goes to the whole idea of what is it, at will employment,
Yeah.
where they may not even need a reason to fire you, they just can.
Yep.
I don't know if that's at will or whatever the opposite of that is. What do you think of companies wanting to do that? I mean, should they have the ability to do that, even if the reason isn't good?
I mean, yeah, I think that there's definitely a gray area where employees may be damaging to the company, but not in like a very obvious way, and so you don't need a very specific reason to fire them or whatever. But and you can companies could abuse that for sure and say, oh, we're firing this person for this unspecified reason, not because they said something we don't like on Facebook or whatever. But I think if we just put it in like black and white terms, I don't think it should be okay for a company to fire someone based off of what they said in public. If they're firing
Mm,
them for some other reason, like, oh, well, we don't want to associate them, or maybe they smell bad when they come into work or whatever, or they just have bad work habits, I think that's completely legitimate. But I do think there has to be a specified reason. I do think that a company can't just say, I want to fire you because we want to fire you. Like, causes problems at work, is annoying, those kinds of things are legitimate reasons. Holds up the supply chain too slow, those are legitimate reasons. But there can't be like, because they can do the same thing, like if someone's African American and they don't want to employ an African American, they just, we're going to fire you for just some indiscriminate reason and have it just be
mm.
hidden racism or whatever. So I do think the company does have to provide some sufficient reason to fire someone, uh, to make it legitimate, not just fire you for whatever reason they just feel like.
Right. Um, the first instance I can think of where someone was fired for something, and I wondered, like, well, should that have happened? Is Don Imus when he was talking about one of the college's female basketball teams. I think he called them nappy headed, and like that was just like, nope, you're fired, goodbye, gone. I can't think of anything before that where it almost seemed like a knee jerk reaction. That actually seems that instant seems more understandable now, maybe through the lens of 2021. But I don't know if that's because I'm just getting accustomed to cancel culture. Can you think of anything before the Don Imus one, or uh,
Oh, there's the Jordan Peterson incident. There was the Peter Boghossian incident. There was oh, the guy who worked with Peter Boghossian. I forgot his name. But yeah, there's
what
a
was
lot
the?
of professors who are anti SJW, anti woke, who have been fired or tried to get fired from many different jobs just because they voice opinions against feminist ideology. And I think that's abhorrent. Like, if
Hmm,
someone was actually discriminating against a different group in a classroom, absolutely, that warrants being fired. But if they're just voicing opinions against an ideology, that does not. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that, except if it was like gas the Jews or something. Then it's maybe a little more okay, especially if they're on the job. But if they're just like even on the job, just saying I don't really like feminism or whatever, that shouldn't you shouldn't be fired for that. That's ridiculous. It's just a political ideology saying I disagree with that political ideology, and the fact that the feminist community interprets that as harm or violence in some way is so
hmm.
asinine. It's just it's completely unfair. It's like Christians saying, "Oh, you're not praying. You're sinning against God. Now we must crucify you." It's essentially the exact same religious ideology or religious mentality of that. Oh, if you don't say the magic words in the magic correct way, oh, it's a sin now. It's so dumb.
Hmm. I don't think I'm familiar with the Peter Boghossian one. What was it? Feminism that he
Yeah.
was speaking? Okay.
Yep. Him and starts with a J. I'm pretty sure it starts with a J. The guy he works with. But yeah, they did. There was a they did a study where they did the most ridiculous, silly studies, like the sexual attractiveness of dogs in a dog park or something. Completely just made it up. Just made up these the most dumbest studies imaginable, filled them with feminist language that said literally nothing, and published and sent them to like the top feminist journals, and got them published in the top feminist journals to show just how much of a joke they are, just to make fun of the entire feminist ideology in feminist journals. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful, and everybody was very upset by this, and they used the legitimate criticism was that he was falsely publishing papers in academic journals because kind of yeah that's true, and they used that to try to fire him. James Lindsay, thank you HMS Hood. HMS Hood mentioned James Lindsay is the guy who was working with Peter Boghossian, and there was somebody else, a woman as well, I believe. And so I think they tried to fire him, or they successfully fired him. He moved to a different college or something like that because he falsely published papers as an experiment to show just how Helen Pluckrose was the woman's name. Thank you, Nick Jr. to show how ridiculous the feminist ideology was. So Peter Boghossian has spoken pretty vehemently against feminism. Peter Boghossian and these other people, James Lindsay and Helen Buckrose, have criticized feminism a lot, and the institution does not like that. Not at all. They really don't like that. And you can find people on Twitter hating on these people because they critique feminism all the time. So yeah, there's a they're not looked well upon in the feminist community.
That's unfortunate. I think at its heart, aren't we all feminists? We should be treating women as equals. Why wouldn't they be?
Oh yeah,
Uh,
in the most general usage of the term, but in the modern usage of the term, it has a
yeah,
completely different meaning. Now it's
it has been co-opted.
yeah, now it's obey or die, essentially.
Yeah, that whole cancel culture thing. What do you think about? Okay, so you've got the feminism thing that people can lose their minds over. What do you think about something like evolution? If there's people who are actually professors, uh, I guess not in biology, but they hold to this idea that evolution isn't real. Do you think they should be fired and lose their job?
No, absolutely not. I see no problem with that whatsoever. Even if they were biologists, geologists, as long as they taught the curriculum, the actual approved curriculum correctly, then what they say in their free time or their own opinions, I couldn't care less. I'm totally fine with them just having their
Yeah,
own opinions and trying to publish papers in, like, if they want to try to publish in geology journals about young Earth creationism, that's totally fine. I'm all for peer review. So if they can, like, I know there's a big publishing center for parapsychology. Parapsychology is one of the most published pseudosciences in the world. There are actual scientific journals that publish papers on these because they just put a lot of effort into trying to make them very rigorous studies. And I have no problem with that. I think that
interesting.
exploring all the different ideas is perfectly legitimate. And so if the young Earth creationists could make testable predictions and publish papers doing experiments that could actually indicate this, that's fine. Like, I'm happy to investigate these. I'm happy to have these tested. It would be a cool thing to do. And I know that it's like this is a good way to make progress in an ideology is that you have it criticized. Like, I know that in debates, the best way to learn how to debate is to have someone tell you you're wrong. The this quote from the Fundamentals of Chess, 1883: the only way to get smarter is by playing a smarter opponent. And so if you have someone who disagrees with evolution and then they like present really strong arguments against evolution that you have to address and then learn more, and by addressing them you learn more about evolution and become more knowledgeable about the topic, that's a good thing. That whole interaction, the relationship between having an idea and then having someone challenge it and then having to go back and reevaluate or learn more about your position, that's great. That is intellectual progress at its finest. So I have absolutely no problem with people being professors and rejecting the scientific consensus on things, as long as they actually teach the curriculum and do their job correctly. I don't care what their personal opinion is. That's fine.
Yeah. It would kind of be an argument from authority anyway, if, like, let's say your creative writing professor was talking to you about evolution. Like, that's not really your area.
Yeah, for sure. But
Okay.
even if it was like an actual geology or actual biology professor, I'd still say that's fine. Like, you can still go. The consensus disagrees with you, if even if that's your opinion. That's great. I'd prefer that in a college setting, where if I was in a class and had like a theist professor and I could debate with him all the time about God while he was teaching logic or whatever, that I would enjoy that. That would make it a better experience for me because I like the more confrontational engagements. So I'm totally fine with that. Be happy with it.
Fair enough. How often do you go to the university? I think in some of the flat earther debates you mentioned, like, doing this, that are you a professor or an adjunct professor or
Oh no, I go to student groups like the Campus Atheist Skeptics and Humanist Student Group at the University of Minnesota. I used to go to a lot of the different groups before COVID happened. Political groups. I met Jeff Sessions, the forget the guy in the United States. Forget what he was. He was working with Trump as one of the president
hmm,
people. And I met Dinesh D'Souza, big Republican guy, because I was going to the Republican groups, the Democratic groups, and the Libertarian groups, and they would all invite speakers, and you could meet them and talk with them and do questions. I went to the philosophy club. I went to a bunch of dance clubs and stuff like that too. So, yeah, I was just going to. use it as a student group thing, and I go usually once every week or once every 2 weeks now because there's only a few groups that I go to after COVID. But I used to go all the time. I did like audit classes a long time ago at the universities. But yeah, so I go once or twice every few weeks.
What kind of classes would you audit?
Philosophy stuff.
Okay.
Not
So
It's not worth the degree. Like getting the degree in philosophy is a complete waste of money, so don't do it.
Fair enough. I was actually exploring that.
Yeah, don't do it. Let me save you now. I will save your life.
All right. If I were to go audit some classes, though, which classes would you say are the top the top choices? Uh, I guess like logic or the Greek philosophers or
Well, I would go more towards modern philosophy. It's usually like the philosophy 2, philosophy 3 classes, so skipping the introduction to philosophy because philosophy is mostly just teaching you the history of philosophy, which is kind of useless. It's not like who cares. What you want is more of the modern philosophy and what are the current progress in philosophy is. What are the current distinctions and things that are taken seriously in the field? What's the current consensus? What are the current papers being published on these different topics? Moral philosophy, I think, is a good one. Moral philosophy and ethics. Legal philosophy, I think, is a good one. Um, Critical thinking, if they offer any critical thinking courses, are fun. Debate, if they have debate courses, those are great. But yeah, all of the history of philosophy, garbage, waste of time. Don't go to them.
interesting. Okay. Well, what is like at the currently going on in philosophy, like modern philosophy? What is considered cutting edge for philosophy?
Well, it's pretty pathetic actually. Like the most modern philosophy is like um, the rule following argument, which is kind of, I think it's so dumb. I think it's such a silly argument. It's about meaning and whether there's an objective meaning and whether you can know the meaning of your words. It's a very interesting syllogistic form. So it has the way the argument is presented, the conclusion follows from the premises, and the premises seem all sound and true. So therefore, it leads to a dichotomy. Either there is no meaning, or meaning has to be objective in some sense. Like usually immaterial, I think, is usually the goal of the argument.
Mm.
And uh, I think, I mean, obviously, I think the argument's dumb. It doesn't make any progress in anything, but it does use the form of logic in a very interesting way to present what seems to be a very strong argument. And I think that is a good thing to learn how to spot because it's the ability to form an argument in such a way that it's compelling, even though it's complete gibberish and garbage, is something that we need to know we can do. We can take logic and make it, it's not a perfect indicator of truth. So we can make an argument that looks perfectly valid, perfectly sound, and be completely stupid. And understanding that that's possible, understanding that logic isn't really the end all be all metric to determine what is true or what is knowledge, is a good thing to learn. So that would be one of the things. Another one would be like Alvin Plantinga, Evolutionary Argument Against Naturalism, his work in epistemology, Reformed epistemology, Properly Basic Beliefs. Those are modern philosophy. Also all garbage. He's considered to be one of the, he's like a theist. He's one of the world's leading theist philosophers. And he's considered one of the top philosophers in the world right now. And if you just look at his magnum opus work, it's such a joke. Like this is what philosophy is. Like really, this is what philosophers take seriously.
Mm.
So, I mean, I don't think modern philosophy is doing much. It's kind of garbage. But the slightly past philosophy was really good. The Manifest for Scientific Image, the different distinctions between like uh, what's going on in the world, what's going on in our mind, how do we like Quine's Two Dogmas of Empiricism, criticism of the synthetic analytic distinction. Those kinds of things are more interesting. So the slightly past philosophy is really good. And I think the most important thing in philosophy is the distinctions. I think the goal or the purpose of philosophy is to distinguish or differentiate between different kinds of ideas in our head, essentially, classes of thoughts, classes of um, conceptualizations. And so looking at like the synthetic analytic distinction, the a priori posteriori distinction, phenomena noumena, Frege's sense reference distinction, um, those kinds of things I think are the best that philosophy has ever done. The most progress they have made is in making these distinctions between different kinds of conceptual ideas, and then by knowing what class of your idea fits into, you can then analyze its relationship to other things and what evidence you would need to support it and what it would require to become justified, those kinds of things. So knowing the class of your ideas, or knowing how to identify if an idea is presented by an opponent in a debate or whatever, how to identify which class of ideas that fits into, and then knowing, because it's in this class, here's the arguments I can use against it, here's how I counter it, here are the problems. I think that is the most useful thing philosophy has provided.
Certainly seems to be what you get the most use out of, since you spend so much time debating.
Yeah, for sure.
The modern philosophy stuff that you were talking about, I can think of an analog to engineering. You can design something on paper, or even a 3D model, and you can think that you have absolutely everything figured out, but that doesn't necessarily mean if you build it, it will work.
Yeah.
I mean, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge is always a favorite in engineering classes. Like, yeah, they built a bridge. It seemed like it was great. And then the wind started blowing, harmonic resonance, and then it
Yep.
shook itself apart.
And then there's the one where like there's the people would all start to walk on the bridge and do the left to the right at the same time, and it would go. I forget. There was the bridge in Britain, I think, where they built the bridge, and people were walking across it, and they all started to like synchronize their steps right and left because it was swaying just a little bit, and so then every single person on the bridge would step once to the right and once to the left, and the whole bridge would then sway back and forth. That was absolutely hilarious. So they had to like close it down and reinforce it to stop it from doing that.
I have to look that one up. I don't think I heard of that one.
And then there's actually another one I remember. It was where there was like a 3-story building and they had a 2-story reinforced glass like walkways, and they were held up by a single steel support, a single like I forget what it's called, like the metal steel wires that are like wobbly, not like a steel beam, and they were all chained together with single bolts. And so even though the bolts were each rated at the correct weight for one of the platforms, since it was all single bolt, they added up cumulatively, and so the weight on I think it was the bottom one actually couldn't hold it, and they calculated it wrong or something, which caused the whole thing to collapse, which is one of like the deadliest engineering accidents in the world.
Wow, how do I not know about this one? I'm gonna have to look that one up.
Millennium Bridge is the name of the British bridge. Norfolk Iceny mentions that's the wobbly bridge one.
Okay, awesome. So you said you met Dinesh D'Souza.
Yeah.
He's another one who sort of got hit with cancel culture. I think he's usually mentioned as an anti-Semite. I don't know if that it is true or not. Do you think? Well, actually, are you aware of the reasons he was canceled?
I looked at it a long time ago. I don't really remember what they are anymore.
Yeah, I know. I watched.
I know he was convicted of like tax fraud or something, like where he donated too much money to a campaign illegally and he had to go to prison for it or something. I thought that was pretty funny.
What's your take on lobbyists?
It's definitely a scam. So I know that lobbying, it works too well. It shouldn't. It's just people going up and talking to politicians and saying, here's what my goals are. And then they give arguments and evidence and why it's important. And it compels the politicians, because politicians are idiots. They're stupid. And so they listen to the lobbyists and say, oh, that sounds intuitively like a very good reason. And so I'm going to be compelled by it and think, okay, so I should advocate for this position. People normally think about it as money in politics, like, oh, they're paying you money, so you're just going to accept any idea, which isn't really the case. Because I met a lot of the politicians here in Minnesota, the Senate leaders in Minnesota, Republican guy actually, which is incredibly ironic for such a hugely liberal state. But it's not like they give you money and you just accept any position. It's more like the money gives you time with them, and the time with them allows someone who's very compelling and charismatic and intelligent to present arguments which are very intuitive to people, and so it makes sense. So they are they're simply just buying time with the politicians to present arguments. And if you have a really compelling person, the arguments they present can convince politicians. They can convince you to accept this position. And so the fact that politicians aren't very well educated on the topics and can be easily convinced by other human beings with similar interests or who are very compelling is really the problem. The problem in politics isn't the money. The problem in politics is the politicians are stupid and that they're just compelled by compelling people and that they don't have like scientific backgrounds in these fields. And so they don't have any idea when someone's just blowing smoke up their ass, but just doing it with very eloquent words. And so I really don't see lobbyists as the problem. I see the problem is the politicians are just stupid and they don't have the correct education to be able to, or critical thinking skills to be able to push back on arguments that are presented to them by lobbyists, because they're more just like hanging out with friends essentially and talking with them and like, oh, that makes sense. That's totally a legitimate thing I should be concerned about to try to make the country or the state better. And so really the problem is making sure politicians, I think, should be trained. I think if you get elected as a politician, you have to go through a training course. Here's the science. You need to be up on the science. You need to be up on basic facts about the world. And that if you're going to see lobbyists, then those lobbyists, you'll need to have a science somebody there. Like do it in like a debate format where the lobbyist has to debate against a scientist and present their arguments and be like, oh, this is what I think should be the case. Here's why. And the scientist is like, no, here are the facts. That's stupid. And then I think it wouldn't be as big of a deal. So, but again, if you had to do that, then people wouldn't spend much money on it anymore because now it's less likely to be successful. And so that would contradict the whole point of lobbying, which is to give politicians some money so that they can advertise and get back into office. So it's a very vicious cycle that the reason people lobby is because there's no pushback. You can just convince politicians of pretty much anything if you have a very compelling person. And the reason politicians allow that is because they get money. And so I think that we definitely need some kind of federal policy to stop that, where it's mostly like instead of, I would just get rid of campaign funding altogether. I think that raising money for your own campaign is bullcrap. I think there should be public debates and only public debates, and the people in office have to actually answer questions, not the kind of stupid CNN debates where they just get to say their rhetoric and not actually answer a question. Like, here's a question, you have to give an actual legitimate answer, and if you don't, we stop you and you make you answer the question. And if we do that for each different political campaign, I think that would be significantly better. So instead of like having each candidate raise their own money, we just have all of the money go to one big debate that all of the candidates partake in, and then they have to debate the issues and represent their position accurately and actually answer the questions. And then from that debate, the voter base can like gauge who they think should be in office. I think that would be far better than just, oh, you get to raise your own money and put in campaign ads that have just bashing your opponent and don't actually say anything substantive. Like I think the current way is just dumb.
Well, you're not going to get any argument from me on that. It's yeah, those presidential debates are usually yeah, they're not what they should be. Don't politicians usually have scientific advisors though? People who are well acquainted with the issues. I mean, obviously
Yes.
they're biased, or at least they're coming in and probably pushing the politician in a particular direction as opposed to actually honestly advising them on the facts as they are.
Well, I would say that there are definitely legitimate scientific advisors on both sides who actually know the science and are actually telling both the Republicans and the Democrats that yes, climate change is real, it's happening. So they all have those. The problem is that the actual scientists get far less time. So like politicians spend 50% of their time when they're in office fundraising. Fundraising meaning lobbyists. They spend 50% of the time either calling people or spending time with lobbyists or making calls to lobbyists, to rich donors. So they don't spend much of their time actually looking at the science. They don't like actually research the issue. What they do is they talk to people who are paying the money, and the people who are paying the money tell them about the issue. So most of their information comes from the lobbyists and their donors, not the scientists. The scientists get very little of their time by comparison. That's a big issue. Like scientists should, by mandate, get more time than anybody else because they're the ones who actually know what they're talking about. but it's not the case, which is a big problem.
So you don't think term limits would like just saying, well, you only get one shot at it. There is no re-election into the seat. You don't think that would even do much?
Well, I mean, it has some effect. It wouldn't really change much, but like if you take Mitch McConnell or something who's been in office for decades, um, someone as bad or people on the extremes would have less time in office. So if you have a term limit, what it's going to do is that the average over 10 years, so if you have a 2 year term limit and you have 5 different candidates over 10 years, even if you get one who's on the extreme, like the far right or the far left, the average of the different 5 candidates is probably going to be in the middle somewhere, probably going to be less extreme. And so if you have term limits, what it's going to do is it's going to make less of a echo chamber in the fact that more, because there's more mitigation between the far right and the center right, so this center-ish, that means that there's going to be more compromise in legislation. So like if you have a Senate and you're trying to pass a bill and everybody's on the far right, no one's going to ever vote to agree on a cooperative bill. They're all going to be like, no. But if there's term limits, then a large portion of those people are going to be in the center. They're not going to be on the far right. They're not going to be the extremists. And so you're going to get far more likely to get compromise. And so that would be the benefit of term limits. It would be just to take it from being only the far right people like Mitch McConnell to the middle right. So he would be replaced by somebody more in the middle, necessarily from the if you're all the way in one direction, you can only go the other direction a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So that would be the benefit of term limits. It would be just more making it more of a centrist kind of equal Senate outcome, which is more likely to do compromise. So there is definitely going to be an effect, but I don't think it would have an effect on like money in politics. That's still going to be there for sure.
Would you say calling lobbying a like legal form of bribing is a fair assessment?
No, because I don't think, again, it's not like the lobbyists are giving them money and saying, I want you to do this, and then like, okay, I will do that now. Lobbying is more like, I will pay you for your time and spend time talking with you. And then in that time, you have to convince them. So it's not just I pay you when you do something. It's I pay you for time, which is perfectly legitimate. Like I charge for time too, so it's not really an issue there. But because lobbyists are so compelling and they're ex-politicians and they know what convinces people, they know how to convince the politicians. They know what information they need to present to be compelling. And that's the part where it becomes closer to bribery, because if you put the right person in front of a politician, they'll be able to convince them. And I think that's really where the issue comes in, because they are really convincing. If lobbyists weren't as compelling, then it wouldn't really be an issue. But because they're really compelling, that's what makes it seem like bribery.
So we've kind of touched on this like via multiple topics. The politicians are idiots, and I mean not that being the thing, but if you're talking about like the masses and everybody as a whole, the intelligence of the mass is really not that good, right? So like in terms of politicians, you've got someone who's representing a very large number of people who, I mean, the intelligence of a politician is one thing, but even like with the scientific community. So even when you're pursuing ideals like, well, free speech and the idea should be able to stand up on its own merit, and it should be able to stand up against criticism because that's how good the idea is. Isn't like the people who are doing that, picking apart and trying to form these arguments, that's, I mean, the intelligence of the people becomes the limiting factor, right?
Not really, because there's a good argument to be made that there's lots of different scientific studies that show the wisdom of the masses as a real thing. So like if you ask, there's a jar of marbles and you ask, well, guess the number of the jar of marbles. Each individual guess is going to be on a spectrum. Some people are going to guess way too high. Some people are going to guess way too low. But if you ask a lot of people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, the more people you ask, the closer the number is going to get to the actual number. It's going to be like, it's going to be really close, because the wisdom of the masses is that some people are on the very far extreme right, some people on the very far extreme left, But because evolution selects for truth in some cases, it kind of averages out to about right in the fact that they're mostly able to gauge some kind of something corresponds to reality on average. So I don't see a problem with that as much. I think that it's more the moral grounding, not the intelligence grounding. So I think that the intelligence of the people isn't the issue. I think it's the morality issues, the things that go outside of intelligence, outside of basic argumentation, or more towards feelings. It's the appeal to the feelings that really makes a difference in political or in political like voter choices. So that's why most debates aren't about facts. They aren't about presenting information. They're not about talking about the science. It's about what inspires feelings. Because if it was about facts, then the people who are right are going to win every time. And so if you want to maintain a position that may not hold the correct factual position and still try to gain leverage in politics, it's an appeal to emotion. You're going to have to make an appeal to emotion. Abortion is evil and they're aborting people. Therefore, it doesn't matter if they're right about climate change. They're evil. And so I think that's more of the issue. The fact that people are affected by emotions and the emotional appeals, and the fact that it's not based on facts. If the debates and the political elections were based purely on facts, I think there'd be no problem with mob mentality. There'd be no problem with just appealing to the masses. They would average out being able to distinguish what is decently correct if we just had just facts and not feelings. But because it's based on feelings, that skews the facts in a very sharp way. The facts barely even matter anymore.
Hmm. Interesting. Do you think that's what fuels cancel culture? It's this
Feelings?
appeal to emotion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's more, these are the evil people. They need to be canceled. That's the same. It's the same as Christianity and sin. Like, oh, they're the evil Satanists and we need to ban them or burn them or crucify them. It's the exact same thing. Feminism is just a new religion.
Interesting. Do you think oh, this is like going to be pure speculation on our parts, but in terms of flat earthers, um, do you think that's what is the emotion do you think that is fueling their position?
Um, there's a lot of different ones. One is religious. Obviously, a lot of flat earthers are very religious and they get their ideas from the Bible, and their lack of trusting authority, which is a good thing. Like, I don't trust authorities. I'm totally happy with that. It's questioning authority is a good thing. Science says you should always question authority, but because they question authority, that means they reject the authorities in their own religious base. So, like Catholicism, Protestantism, the current consensus in the religious communities is that, yeah, evolution happened, but it's God guided evolution. I forget what that's the term for that is. But because they question authority, they don't trust that. And so they read the Bible and just trust their own interpretations, and they take it very literally because they don't usually have as much of a abstract thought as other people, and so they don't interpret it to be figurative. They don't trust their scientific education. Many of them dropped out of high school, and so because they're very skeptical of authorities and they're very skeptical of what they learned in school, and they only believe things based off of their own direct perception. When they read the Bible, which is what happens first before they look at any scientific data, their literal interpretation of the Bible is, oh, it says the world is on pillars. Oh, and there's a firmament. Oh, and it's flat. And then they look at the world like, oh, it looks flat. Oh, so my vision is confirming what the words in the Bible say, and the words in the Bible matter more to me than anything else. Therefore, I'm going to believe that and reject everything that the Christians say, everything that the scientists say, because my own direct experience of both the Bible and vision of the world being flat is more important to them. They value that epistemically far more than authority or science or anything else. And I think that's really the primary two reasons why that motivate flat earthers is that they read the Bible, this is what it says. They don't trust anybody else's interpretation of the Bible. They look at the world, this is what they see. They don't trust anybody else's interpretation. And when you base your understanding and vision of the world off of your direct literal interpretation of the Bible, you get flat earth. And I think that's the primary reason. There's also another group of flat earthers who are non-religious, and they're just hyper skeptical of authority, hyper skeptical of government. And oh, look, these flat earther guys, they seem to mirror the emotional values of the skeptical people, and they're like, oh, we get along really well, so let's join together in a community. So I think those are the two branches of flat Earth: the religious branch and then the hyper skeptical branch, and they just get along so well that they've merged into the flat Earth community.
Do you think Dunning Kruger affects one more than the other, or it's pretty much applicable to the whole swath of them?
Well, Dunning Kruger being that the more you know about the information, the more skeptical you are of it. The less you know, the less skeptical you are of it. So I definitely think that it definitely affects both, but in different areas. So I think that the skeptical branch is more affected in the terms of science, whereas the religious branch is more affected in the terms of the Bible. So when they research the Bible, they're very ignorant of how it was made. They're ignorant of what the Greek means. All they know is what they read in their literal King James version Garbo. And so they are Dunning Kruger, affected by the Dunning Kruger in the fact that they're so ignorant of the Bible. They feel like they're very confident in that they know what the Bible really says. And so it affects them in that area more than it does science. And then they just interpret science based off of their religious interpretation. Whereas the super skeptical flat earthers, their Dunning Kruger is mostly the scientific stuff. They don't understand the science and they think they do. So I think it affects them both equally, but just in different contexts.
Interesting. I think that's the first time I've heard Dunning Kruger explained as an evaluation of someone's skepticism. That's like the textbook definition of Dunning Kruger.
Sort of, yeah. Dunning Kruger is just the tendency that when someone knows more about a subject, they tend to be more skeptical and less confident in their knowledge. And so, the less you know about a subject, the less confident you are. That's essentially what it is.
Mm. Okay, so as an aerospace engineer, would I be exhibiting Dunning Kruger if I just accept the idea that we went to the moon without doing the back of the napkin calculations of the Saturn V and the fuel it takes to get there and back?
Sort of. It would be more like you would be affected by Dunning Kruger if you didn't realize that there were more people who knew more than you about the field, and like, I should probably consider what they say first. So like if you thought you were the absolute expert and nobody in aerospace could know more than you in the topic, then you'd probably be being affected by it. But if you're like, you know what, there's some people who I really respect in this field and I'm going to defer to them and like ask them for advice to check my work, then you're like, no, that then you're not affected by the Dunning-Kruger as much. Or well, technically you are, because you're questioning the more expertise you have, the more you're likely you are to question.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So a lot of what you do is debate, um, and I guess becoming better at debate, even passing on information to others of how to debate better. How much of that overlaps with like the debate stuff that kids did in junior high school?
None, zero, exactly -7%. The debates, like debate in high school and debate in college, is exactly the same. Like I go to the debate clubs, their actual debate classes that they do is complete trash. It's all rhetoric. It's all just learn how to say the thing as fast as you can, pretty much, and presented in a very structured format. It's never about how to be compelling. It's never about how to convince people. It's never about like an open conversation. Like debate online, debate in the real world is more like an open conversation where you disagree and you have a conversation and a back and forth. Debate in high school and debate in colleges, they present for 2 minutes, you present for 2 minutes, you just try to present your points. You're never going to convince the other person. There's no exchange of ideas. It's all just they present a fact, you present a fact. And it's complete garbage. It's a complete waste of time. There's no
Mm.
value in it whatsoever. Real debate in the real world is a conversation. It's an exchange between two people's ideas, and then having like going down a path where you ask a question and then they give an answer and then you ask another question about that question and you go in that path. Whereas in debate formats, they present a fact, you present a fact, they present a different fact that has nothing to do with the topic or nothing to do with that previous conversation. You present another fact and you just move on like that until you've presented all the facts that you think are important, and then the judges just judge whichever facts are better. Essentially, it's not, there's no value in actual formal debate in high school or college.
Well, glad I skipped it then. Huh. Um, do you like debating flat earthers?
Sort of. So I had major depression most of my life. I've just hated talking to people pretty much always. Um, but recently, because I've cured my major depression more or less, I have enjoyed conversations more than I used to. And in that way, I I mean, I do enjoy the challenge of being presented with a new way of thinking that I'm not used to and trying to explain things to them in such a way that it's easy for them to understand. I like the challenge there. I like the fact that the thing I like most about debate is when you're talking to somebody, you're trying to present your ideas and communicate them in such a way that the other person understands them and that it's understandable to the audience. And learning how to refine your position and your arguments in such a way that it is very, very easy for people to understand is a cool challenge for me. I like it. It's like a video game, learning how to beat the boss in a faster way or in a more effective way. And so, in that respect, I do enjoy debating flat earthers. I enjoy learning how to improve my argumentation, improve my communication skills, to present simpler arguments, things that are better in the context of what they're saying. Like, oh, well, you must do it yourself. So, okay, so we need to find an example that we can do ourselves that they can understand. So, I think that each opponent you debate is like a hurdle that you have to overcome, like a different challenge or a different game that you have to beat. And learning how to beat them, learning what it takes to communicate your ideas to them is a fun process, like playing a video game and learning how to get good at the new video game. So in that respect, yeah, I do enjoy debating flat earthers.
Do you think they enjoy it?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's why they do it so much. I think
Mm.
they're very passionate about it,
Well,
presenting
plus
their
they're getting
ideas.
heard.
Yeah, well,
But,
I think yeah, their exposure is important to them, and but I don't think the exposure is necessarily that important to them because there's a lot of really small flat earthers who don't really care. They're just presenting their beliefs and like talking about it. Like a lot of people just enjoy conversation and exchanging ideas in that way. That's why there's meetup groups all over the world for that kind of thing. So I think a lot of the flat earthers are not as interested in the exposure and are more just interested in discussing their ideas and doing the debate thing in general.
mm. What flat earther do you think you enjoyed discussing with, or discussing, yeah, with the most?
Probably the one I did last. I forget. I think was it on Fight the Flat Earth? It might have been. He was a really nice guy to talk to. Pretty easy going.
Hmm. Wait, the fight the flat Earth guy? Like, no, just having a discussion with him.
No, he was hosting a debate between me and some guy,
Oh,
or
gotcha,
this was a
gotcha.
debate between me and some guy. He was a very nice flat earther, very kind, very. He didn't interrupt. We actually exchanged ideas very clearly. I don't remember what his name was. I don't. It was hosted by somebody else, but he was a nice
Yeah.
guy. He had like a little beard kind of a thing going on. But yeah, the ones that were pleasant are the ones I enjoy the best. Like the Nathan Thompson ones, not so much. That's because it's just a yelling match. Those aren't as fun. Entertaining though.
I yeah, he probably does himself a disservice. It's unfortunate that things have to devolve into ad hom so much. Uh, I always thought your approach of getting a radio and bouncing radio waves off the moon was very interesting, very creative, and something that they could do. Do you think any of them have actually tried to do it?
No, definitely not. I mean, because their goal of debating isn't to actually learn. Their goal of debating is to. I mean, well, maybe that one guy might actually try to do it. I don't think he has enough money to, but he might have tried to do it. Everybody else is like, no. All the other flat
Yeah.
earthers are mostly just there to debate, not to actually change their own mind. Which I don't think there's a problem with that. I don't think there's a problem with debating without the intention of trying to learn. I think that's perfectly fine. I think that in those cases you can be forced to learn when someone presents an argument that makes you look so dumb and then you like have to introspect about what just happened and how do you improve and trying to learn a better way to respond to that argument and then you're like, oh wait, crap, it beats me, it wins, and then by doing that you may change your position. So I don't think there's technically a problem with debating without the intention of actually learning. But yeah, I don't think any of the flat earthers actually have that
Do you think
intention.
that ever happens like in the debate where someone has to stop and think and they'll actually go through that process?
Yeah, it definitely happens. Like it's happened to me a few times, like where I learned about fallibilism and certain arguments. And like in my first debate with Rob Coons, I was not as confident in my argumentation, and then I had to go back and think about all the things that we talked about. And during the second debate, I did far better. So it definitely does happen for me. And the better you are at debate, the more likely you are to introspect about what you said and try to improve it in that way. So I think the better a debater you are, the more that will happen.
Hmm. Okay. Can you think of any other experiments that a flat earther might do that could make them stop and think maybe the earth is round? I mean, what Jeranism did in that documentary with the two boards with the holes in it, and it was at night lifting up the light. Uh, I mean, that's something people can actually do. Uh,
I mean, I don't think so. I don't think any experiment that they see is going to convince them on Earth. I think that their conviction with the fact that they look at water and it looks flat is so strong that that experiment is so much simpler than all of the other ones. It's going to be hard for them to question that with a much more complicated experiment that's harder to conceptually understand. So, in order to convince a flat earther, I think you're going to have to take them to space. I think that's pretty much what's going to have to happen.
and any flat earther who does go to space and comes back and says, "Yep, the Earth's round," he becomes ousted by all the other flat earthers.
NASA shill, paid money. Yep.
uh, seems like I don't know that like the self defense mechanisms are built into the position that.
Oh, but that's the case with all ideologies. All ideologies are um, have that kind of mechanism. There's a defense mechanism just built into human psychology of that. If your beliefs are questions because of confirmation bias, you first try to discredit the information or interpret the information to be a support of your already existing belief. So that's just a feature of human nature. All beliefs are like that. It definitely happens in religions a lot and strong convictions a lot. Whereas things that are like, what is the distance to the moon? 250,000 miles? No, it's 230,000 miles. Like, or whatever. That's fine. I don't care. So strongly held beliefs all have that feature. I don't think that's something that's unique to flerfs.
Fair enough. What would you do if someone said, uh, science tells us there's only, or there's between 100 and 400 billion stars in the galaxy? Well, that number is like the discrepancy between 100 and 400 million is so big, science can't tell us shit.
Uh, yeah, it's. I definitely there's. It's hard to say that um because we have a I forget what it's called, the plus or minus thing, the error value, or what the something of error,
Margin of error,
margin of error.
or
Yeah, that's it, margin of error. Because we have a margin of error, science knows nothing. Well, that's clearly false because it's giving us some amount. It's saying it's somewhere between here and here. Like if I point in that direction, say Texas is somewhere in that general direction, plus or minus 1,000 miles. Like I'm still getting part of the direction right. I'm eliminating like 99% of the other alternatives. So it still gives us something. So it's just I think it's they're being too strict with what they count as knowledge. Like saying you must have an exact number or it doesn't count as knowledge. Like, no, you don't. You really don't.
yeah, I don't know. I was blindsided by the comment. I don't know. I couldn't think of a compelling rebuttal. Uh, but being in engineering, it's like, well, there's a magnitude there. There's such a huge difference between 100 million and 100,000. That's 3 orders of magnitude. That's I don't know. Yeah. Debate's not something I've ever studied up on. Philosophy is really just something I've fallen into a little bit these past few years because I've gone down this rabbit hole of watching all these YouTube videos of I guess flat Earth debates. But um, yeah, I don't know. Growing up, when I went to high school, I went to a pretty decent school, so I was surrounded by a bunch of people that did well on tests. Like just everybody uh, uh, did super well on those standardized tests. I just thought that it didn't occur to me that like, no, we were well above average. The average really does like kind of terrible at these things. I went to college and that just became even more. I was an higher level bubble of I guess intellect. But then when I went out into the real world and I started running into real people, like with a job and then all the other different fields, areas, and things like that, I realized, wow, I was sheltered. Uh, do you ever have those moments where you might interact with other people and you think, do you ever get worried? Like the progression of mankind, like I don't know, maybe we're a collection of idiots and it's a freak accident, we've done this well this far, or
Not exactly, because I think that it's just basic evolution. It's that there's a large spectrum of humans, and the successful ones get selected for, and the unsuccessful ones get selected out. I think that's kind of the point of evolution, is that it just creates a random spectrum, both good and bad, and the bad ones die and the good ones survive or thrive. And that's just a thing. That's just how evolution works. So I'm not concerned by it. I don't, that's kind of like the intelligent design argument. Oh, look, how could we possibly survive with all of the stupid things? There must be some intelligence guiding this. Like, nah, I think it's more just that's how nature works. Like if we need somebody, there's a lot of people out there who do work at just average jobs, McDonald's or whatever, and they do things for society. They prop up the super successful, the super rich, the super intelligent. And I think that that is a feature of evolution, not a bug. Like if everybody was a Bill Gates or a Elon Musk or whatever, nobody would work. Nobody work at McDonald's. Like we're not going to do that. It's just not going to happen. And so society would definitely collapse if everybody was super independent and intelligent. And so the fact that there are less intelligent, more manually work driven kind of people is kind of like an ant society where there are the worker ants and they do something. And so that's, I think that that feature has actually been a benefit to evolution in a lot of ways. Like when running away from a lion, the smart ones get away, the dumb ones get eaten. Um, and so I think the fact that there's a lot of less intelligent people is actually something that evolution has specifically designed for, to be like a padding or a cushion for the intelligent ones. So I think that's a feature of evolution, not a bug.
interesting. I had not considered that. But what about the movie Idiocracy? Like
You
the
mean, oh,
idea
you
that
mean
like only
20,
the dumb ones are reproducing.
oh, you mean 2020? Like, oh, the Trump era? Like what happened? Um, it's possible that once we get to a point technologically where everyone can just live and we have like AIs controlling everything, then yeah, there's no more selection for smart people. When everyone's just taken care of, evolution kind of goes out the window, and there will be an intellectual regression at that point. But I don't think we'd get to the point of idiocracy. Like, I think there would need to be enough technology and artificial intelligence to actually run the world before that could happen. So I don't think Gatorade in watering the plants is going to be a big thing.
It's got electrolytes. It's what plants crave. Huh. What do you think about since you brought it up, AI and machines and us becoming more, um, I guess, more things becoming more autonomous? Do you think industries are going to run into a problem where there's too many people, not enough jobs?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We were already kind of there. But I don't. At that point, I don't think we're going to need jobs anymore. I think there's going to be a UBI, Universal Basic Income, to solve that problem. So I think that's actually going to be a good thing for humanity overall. Um, I think it's. I don't think work in itself is moral. I think work is kind of immoral. The fact that we force people to go to a job and do manual labor for 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, just so they can survive, have a home and food. I think that's horribly immoral. I think that's a terrible thing. So I think that once we have AIs that can do most of the work for us, morally, in good governments, we're going to make laws that the people who own those robots are going to have to like support society. They're going to have to give a UBI, pay taxes that can support a UBI. And so I think that'll be a good thing for the Western civilization. Chinese civilization, not so much. I have concerns that when um, artificial intelligence takes over and they have like computers doing all of the work in Chinese factories, they're not gonna do that. They're gonna have some pretty big problems when it comes to society in China, in those cases in India. But yeah, in America, in Western society, I think it's going to be a very good thing.
Hmm. I haven't watched any of your political debates. Uh, would you call yourself a socialist?
No, socialism is cancer. I'm a capitalist, free market society. Yeah, socialism. The reason socialism doesn't work is the same reason a lottery that pays everybody the same doesn't work. Like, in order to inspire human beings to work, you got to have a winner. You got to have a chance of being the guy who wins the lottery. Otherwise, they're not going to put in the effort. Because, like, would you buy a lottery ticket that for $1 if you're going to only get, if everybody who buys $1 gets 80 cents back? Like, obviously not. Like, why would you waste your money on a lottery ticket? The same kind of thing applies to socialism. Why would you spend time building a company if you're only going to get 80% of the profit back? Like, no one's going to do that. They're just going to
Hmm.
leave. They're going to do what happened in Russia with the Bolsheviks, I think is what they're called, where they just started their own economy and said, well, we're just not going to be a part of your economic system. We're going to have our own private capitalistic system. And then in order to stop that, either you're going to have to imprison them or do what Stalin did and just kill them all. So capitalism isn't going to work because if you provide them an opportunity, provide people an opportunity to buy into a lottery where it pays out less to everybody than anybody else, they're going to opt out, and somebody else is going to start one of the capitalistic lotteries, and they're going to go to that one because it inspires more confidence, it works better, it gets people more engaged. Just as a system, capitalism is more in line with human nature, what motivates people.
Hmm.
Socialism, I agree, is more moral as an ideal, giving everybody what they need to survive, providing people correct rights. Like, that's the moral thing to do. That is the correct thing we should do, but it's not pragmatic. It's not something that inspires people. And the rarest resource we have in society is confidence, is people's confidence. What are people going to actually invest the time and effort to try and support? A lot of the policies and things in America do nothing. They just inspire confidence. Like the TSA for the airport security does nothing. Like, all of the supports, all of the studies show that they don't stop jack shit. Like, the FBI has done like numerous tests to see what can they get through the TSA. Ninety
Yeah,
percent of stuff they get through, no problem. They can just hide it, get it through, whatever weapons, bombs, whatever they want. They can just get it through.
I call it
TS
theater.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
the TSA had a huge impact on the economy. Like, back before, after 9/11, there were huge concerns about safety issues. Introduced the TSA. The amount of money people spent on plane tickets went up significantly, like 400, 500%, like overnight, because they were now confident. They felt safer. And so, even though the TSA did nothing, it made people feel safe. And so, that feeling of safety is hugely important economically. It's the thing that drives the economy. And so, if you have socialism is like no TSA, and capitalism is like a TSA, does nothing, completely useless, wastes a ton of money, but makes people feel very safe.
Interesting. Well, since you brought up capitalism and also thought that work was immoral, uh, I almost thought like that there might have been a contradiction there. But would you say capitalism is like a necessary evil?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So morally, socialism is right. Morally, providing everyone what they need is right. Taxation is theft. Work is slavery. All of those things are right. But pragmatically, because we don't have the technological means to overcome those things, we need to accommodate human nature and make sure that we provide systems that inspire confidence and get people to actually go to work every day and actually want to spend money on the lottery of capitalism. And because if they don't, then society collapses. So yeah, it's a necessary evil because of human nature. And once we get the technological AIs to do all of the work for us, then we'll do away with capitalism, go into socialism, UBI, and that'll be a far better world.
Hmm. The Star Trek world, right?
Yep, the Star Trek world.
Um, I've heard capitalism expressed in an analogy like people at a poker table. And just because of the system of capitalism, like whoever the biggest stack is, they just end up becoming bigger and bigger and bigger until they like wipe everyone out. Do you think that analogy holds?
No. So we can look at billionaires. The top billionaires across time change regularly. They lose their position all the time. They stop being billionaires. They lose their money. It's a very rare group of people actually stay in the richest group because there's always some new invention. Somebody else takes over, whatever. They die. Their kids take over. Their kids aren't as good at it. So there's lots and lots of examples of people losing their spot as the richest people, or losing wealth, losing their grasp of the economy. So it's very hard to stay at the top, extremely hard to stay at the top. Obviously, wealth normally increases in families because you put money in stocks or whatever, as long as the economy holds up. But the overall wealth represented by income doesn't matter as much. What matters is the technology. So if we look at the average home today and the average home 500 years ago, there's a huge difference. Like I would much rather live in a poor person's home today than a king's home 1,000 years ago. So because the technology is increasing, the wealth, the life standards, the living standards of every human being is being increased, even though the wealth gap may be increasing. The living standards of every human being is increasing. So what's more important? Is it the wealth inequality, or is it the living standards of every human being? I'm going to go with living standards every time. I'll be like, yo, nope. The fact that we're improving lives, even though this system is unfair, even though the system promotes huge wealth inequality, it benefits the quality of life of everybody significantly. So this system is unfair, it is corrupt, it is evil, but it's better, but it works. It works to improve everyone's lives. And so I would rather have that than a system that starves people to death, that doesn't inspire confidence, that causes lots of war and requires somebody in charge who's going to kill everybody who disagrees to make them all get in line and do the socialism thing. A system that works and is unfair is better than a system that doesn't work and is fair.
Wow. I'm gonna have to think on that. That's that's interesting. It sounds like I would be very hesitant to call it patriotism, but it seems like you do think the system that America has is pretty good.
America's not a great example, but it wouldn't. It's like saying, forget the quote. The politician says democracy is the least evil political system we have, or is terrible, but it's less terrible than everything else. So the way to think about political systems is the vast majority of political systems will kill everyone. Any political system, there's lots of political systems that can cause starvation, lots of political systems that can cause economic collapse. Most ways political systems could be will kill everyone. Most political systems that could possibly exist are all terrible. So anything that works, anything that keeps society alive is a good system. It's better than the majority of systems. So right now, the capitalist system in America is better than the majority of systems that killed everybody. That's the basic starting point. So the risk is, when trying to change a political system, is if you change it to one of the bad ones that kills everybody, that's something you want to avoid. You desperately want to avoid that. This is where conservatism is justified. They want to say the current system works to some extent. It doesn't work well, but it works. And so if we change it, we're risking making it one of those kill everybody systems. And we want to avoid that. So we want to make small changes and not make big changes, because if we want to notice if it's going in that direction and stop before like we do something huge like implement single payer healthcare. And then if we're already in that system, then we're in trouble because we can't like dial it back. So the whole point of conservatism is that there are a lot of political systems that kill everybody, a lot of political systems that are terrible, that'll destroy the economy, and we want to avoid that. The vast majority of political systems are that way. They're really bad. And so if we think about it like a spectrum of directions we could go in, and most of them are bad, you want to go slowly. You want to go little steps at a time, test the waters, be like, okay, this is a bad direction, let's not go in this direction. And whereas liberalism is like, well, we look at the current system and think about how could it be better. And we want to make the big changes to make it better as fast as possible. But that doesn't take into consideration the fact that, well, if we go in the wrong direction too far, everybody dies. So we want to go slowly, go slowly with conservatism. So if you understand the political landscape in that analogy, where most systems are death and bad and we don't want them, then where we are currently, no matter how bad it is still better than the vast majority of systems. So it's like the quote, the democracy is the least evil of all the evils, or whatever. Or capitalism is the least evil of all the evils. It's a good system compared to all systems, even though it's still very evil and immoral in and of itself. It's still a better pragmatic system than the vast majority of other possible political systems, which will all fail. And so it is fair to say that capitalism is a good system when comparing it in that way, even though it's still very, it's not nowhere close to what a really the best political system would be in the future.
Hmm. Would you describe yourself as a Republican or a
No,
conservative?
I'm a left-leaning centrist. So I'm like most current political systems are mixed economies where you have a large portion of capitalism with some government-funded stuff, socialist stuff like firefighters, roads, building roads, healthcare reform, all those kinds of things. So I'm totally fine with a mixed economy. I would not be fine with socialism. Straight up socialism, not good. Mixed economy, totally great. Happy with mixed economies. So like Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Iceland, Germany, all of those places have good political systems for the most part. I'm not a big fan of open borders. I don't like that idea, but a lot of I like mixed economy. So I'm definitely a left leaning centrist, not a Republican.
How would you define open borders, and what is it about that scares
Uh,
you?
well, I don't know how to define it. I would say merit-based immigration is the best base. So merit-based immigration is the one that is the correct one, letting people in who are likely to benefit the economy, likely to intellectually grow the system, to create jobs, to do things to benefit the people who are here, rather than to be possibly a burden on the system. So people who take more social services than they provide back are not a good kind of person you would want in the country. Because if you take too many of them, that puts a burden on the system that we could be using that money for other things to benefit people who are already here, who are already growing the economy. And so, regardless of whether or not you think anybody does that, the idea, the type of person who would be a burden on the economy is not someone who you would want to immigrate to the country. You would want people who are going to be a benefit to the economy. And so open borders, because it doesn't restrict the kinds of people in as much as it should, is bad for that reason. We want to have merit-based immigration and have the people who are the most qualified enter the country and not just anybody from X region.
Well, what about like a situation where we're taking in refugees? There's obviously no evaluation of merit there, right? It's just these people are in trouble. We're giving them safe harbor.
Yeah, I mean it's the same kind of a thing. Like we should do it to some extent just to be moral, but we can't have unmitigated refugees. We can't just like take the entire country of Africa in or whatever and just give them all healthcare. Like that would not work. That would just destroy the economy instantly. So I think for moral reasons we should take some refugees, but I think this definitely should be capped to a small number.
What about the quote on the Statue of Liberty? I think, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses." Do you think this is contrary to that sentiment?
Yes. So back then, we didn't have as many social services. It didn't cost us anything. People could come over, they could grab a piece of land, they could raise it themselves. We're not going to give them any money. Who cares? So you could take infinitely many. Like if we had the policies of back then, took the entire country of Africa and just added it in, gave them no social services or whatever, it wouldn't matter that we just added a few billion people to the population. Because if we're not going to give them anything, it's not going to affect the American continent population at all. I mean, you're still going to get the same social services. You're still going to get everything the same. But if we added the continent of Africa to America and then started to give each person their healthcare or social security or welfare checks, that would bankrupt the country overnight. So that would be a terrible thing. So I think Milton Friedman said it best. He said, either you can have open borders or you can have a welfare state. You can't have both. If you have welfare that is given to all of the population and you have a large population that people can just enter and then take advantage of that welfare system, that is an economic bad thing. But if you have no welfare state or there's criterions that you must adhere to get welfare coverage, and then it doesn't matter. You can just have whatever population you want. You can just include entire other continents. And if they don't get any welfare services, then it doesn't make a difference. It makes no economic difference. So that principle, I think, is an accurate one. Either you can have a welfare state or you can have open borders. You can't have both.
Okay. What do you think about America's involvement in basically being the hammer with as NATO? Like all of our world policing, the wars that we get involved with, would the fact that we spend so much on our military, like not orders of magnitude, but multiple times more than other countries. Do you think that's good, bad, we shouldn't do that. We should be focusing on other things.
Well, I think there's two parts there. One is that we spend money on the military. I think that's a good thing. I think that I forget what it's called. There's like, since nuclear proliferation, there's been a balance of power, and that balance of power has stopped all major wars. There's been no major civilized countries going to wars over the past since World War II. No big wars.
Mutually assured destruction, that thing.
Yeah, yeah, mutually assured destruction. The the balance of power is such that it stops any kind of serious warfare. And America acting in that way is very good. America providing has bases all over the world, and those bases act as a preemptive barrier against any type of military strikes. And that's a very good thing. Like if we think if we imagine China or Russia in this position, if they had as much power of America, that would be bad. This would be a very bad, very different situation where they'd just be conquering as much as they could. British Empire. That it would look like the British Empire more or less. Um, and so that the fact that America spends its money and is a very benign, like even though they do lots of wars and stupid stuff, they're very benign by comparison to like the British Empire or what China or Russia would look like if they're in this situation. So again, I think it's the lesser evil situation where America spending lots of money on war and being not as bad as pretty much any other country that we could imagine in this situation is probably a good thing. Like they're making progress. We're moving the world in a more peaceful direction slowly. There's been no real big wars. America being the spearhead is better than China being the spearhead. So until we get some better way to do things, I think this is again the most pragmatic evil we have, like capitalism. It works. It's doing some good. Does a lot of evil too, but it's the least evil we can do for the time being until we get a better system.
Okay. Well, I don't know if this is conspiratorial thinking or not. I've never verified any of this, but hasn't America been involved in the overthrow of some governments or dictators in other countries?
Ton of them.
Yeah. So,
But the problem is the amount. The amount that America has overthrown governments is significantly less than the amount that British colonies overthrew governments. Britain conquered like the entire planet. Just went out and just conquered everything. If China or Russia had the same power as America, they'd probably be doing the same thing. They'd just be going out conquering everything. So America picking a handful, a few dozen places to try and overthrow a government, while it's bad, while it's unjustified, it's evil, it's not as bad as what would happen if the British Empire was in power right now, or the Russians were in power right now, or the Chinese were in power right now. So they're not good, but again, it's the lesser evil of the other options we have.
do you think America's declining? Like, are we becoming
Declining.
less powerful in comparison?
I wouldn't call it a decline. I'd say we're not growing as fast. I'd say that China's economic policy with the Belt and Road and their debt traps in Africa and their technological advancements are catching up. They are doing a good job to economically counter America. And that because they're growing faster economically than what America is and are going to probably overtake America as the world's leading economy, that will definitely be the biggest risk to America's decline. Not as much like the military technology, they're still pretty far behind on, but military wars are less of a concern. It's more the economic battle. China has realized that going a military route isn't going to be very successful because of mutually exclusive destruction. There's no way to really win in that. You need enough to defend your country against some attacks, but you're not gonna like conquer the world through military means anymore. It's not going to happen because of nukes. But economically, there's a huge weakness in our society because of economics that you can economically take over everything. You can just economically rule the world through debt because of capitalism and other systems. There's a weakness to capitalism, and it's the debt. And if they gain enough economic control, then yeah, that could definitely be a huge threat to America, to safety, to everybody in the world. And so economically, yeah, we're losing a lot of ground. Not sure what we can do about it either.
Do you actively try to buy things made in America?
No,
Or
I don't care.
okay.
I want my Chinese cheap shit that doesn't cost anything.
Huh. Hmm. Yeah, I'm actually trying to buy a truck now. I want to buy a Toyota. They they just beat the crap out of everything made in America in terms of reliability and all that. I want to buy a truck and know that 15 years later it's still running.
Yeah, and the cheapness of maintenance and repair costs, cheapness of tires, oil changes. Yeah, the Chinese, Japanese, Asian built stuff is the new Germany. They do stuff good.
Hmm. What do you think about the cyber warfare that we've been able to, I guess, say that China's been behind some of this stuff? I don't know if that's government
Oh,
sanctioned.
oh yeah, for sure. Government has for sure said in America they have caught China like stealing all of the plans for the F-35 and copying a lot of the plans in their new planes. So there's lots of espionage done, technological espionage through digital warfare going on by China. Definitely happens all the time. Um, Again, not sure there's anything we can do about it. It's just since it's
Hmm.
not like they're not coming into our borders, they're not launching anything. We're not going to start a war over it, even if they're stealing the most advanced war technology in America, the F-35 stuff. We're not going to like go to war over that. We're not going to risk lives. So I don't know what we can do about it. The technological warfare is such a gray area on what is until it causes enough significant damage to justify actually going to war. We're probably not going to do anything about it.
Hmm.
There was that one incident where they shut down the pipeline. The Russian hackers shut down the pipeline. That was pretty serious. That was those kinds of things are what's going to move cybercrime into a more serious realm of what we take as a legitimate act of war. So, but as long as it's nothing that bad, which I don't think China would have the balls to actually pull that off because that would be a huge military concern, and China doesn't at this point doesn't want to start into a military conflict with America, especially since economically they're looking like they're going to take the advantage. So none of the big countries are going to do something that's stupid. But as long as those random Russian hackers are going to shut down American pipelines, um, digital warfare is going to be taken a lot more seriously, or start to be taken a lot more seriously because of things like that.
Do you think America, what you said China wouldn't have the balls to do, do you think America would have the balls to try something like that to another country?
No, because again, I think America is, contrary to popular belief, very pacifistic. That like we don't take as many aggressive actions against other countries as people think. Like compared to what China would do or Russia would do or Great Britain, the old Great Britain would do, what America does is significantly pacifistic by comparison.
Hmm. Do you think the current administration is sticking to that? Would you call them just as pacifistic on the whole,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
or pacific?
I don't think anybody in the Biden or in the Republican or Democratic administration has any kinds of plans of world domination. I don't think they're going to go Great Britain, let's go conquer Africa and see
Right,
their
right.
resources. Not really a thing. Like it happens for oil in some cases, but again, that's a very minute case that's very small in the world stage, like compared to what Britain was doing, which is conquer. Let's just conquer the entire planet. Like that's not a thing Americans are going to do. That's not a thing that anybody in any political party in America has the goal to do, as opposed to everybody in the Chinese party. They want world domination. In Russia wants world domination. The old Great Britain wanted world domination. So by comparison, America is very pacifistic.
Interesting. It talking about all of this, it seems like wow, my brain just stopped dead in its tracks. I had a thought there and I lost it.
Well, actually, it'd be great if you could think of that because I go to the bathroom, so I'll be back in a minute.
Fair enough.
All right, I'm back. Oh, I
Okay.
just noticed your lamp is flashing.
Oh yeah, it's got one of those flame bulbs in it. So I thought throwing it in a lantern would look kind of neat, but I guess on camera it just looks like it pulses more than anything else. But in person it looks a little more flamey. Um, it I remembered what I was going to ask. Talking about all of this, it seems like a lot of the different decisions any administration would make, uh, it seems like a drop in a bucket, or a drop in the ocean. So like the 4 years of Trump, I mean, even when I was sitting on pins and needles, watching him meet with world leaders like Kim Jong Un and all that, did that ultimately just like not really matter?
Yeah, I mean,
Like
most.
as in that it didn't echo huge changes or anything like that.
Oh yeah, no, it didn't. It wasn't anyway. It's just political grandstanding. So most of those kinds of things are um, mostly just relational. So like how Trump went to war with China, a trade war, because they didn't get along. None of that had any benefit. That was a complete waste of time just because they were assholes. Whereas Trump meeting with Kim Jong Un, I mean, they were going to be less assholes to one another. That's all. That's all it's doing is they're just be nice with other political leaders so they'll be less of assholes to one another. That's all it is. It doesn't do anything.
Fair enough. Well, now I was skeptical that my vote really mattered before. Now I really don't think it doesn't matter, which probably is not very American to say. Hmm.
Yeah, I think in order to make any real change, you'd have to have somebody like essentially bypass the government and actually just do it yourself. So like my idea would be what I'd like to do is I'd like to start an atheist church, atheist religion. And the goal of the atheist religion is to like achieve the best of all possible worlds, my objective morality, where there's no involuntary position of will. And to do that, you would like build or buy apartment buildings. And then if it's a church, that means it has no property taxes. So that'll decrease like the average apartment building costs like $4 million or something. The average big one with 40 apartments or something is like $4 million, which in taxes usually comes to like $400,000 a year. So that's $400,000 a year you have to pay to like state and federal taxes just to own the building. And if you didn't, you could decrease the cost of the apartment building by that much. So that means you're charging all of the tenants less money, $400,000 a year less money to live there. And you could do that. You could provide these ways of living that are cheaper than all the other ones, and provide services that are better than the other ones. And by doing this, you could show or demonstrate that there's a better system than the American system, and that would be more likely to inspire real change. Like if you could provide a better standard of living than the government can, that'll get you more political clout than anybody else. You could say, let me run for government because I actually decrease the cost of living for people. They don't. They're a bunch of useless idiots in politics. I provide housing at a lower cost. I provide insurance at a lower cost. I provide credit cards that don't decrease your credit score because you looked at your credit score. Like, what stupid crap is that? Or, oh, you applied for a new credit card while you still had like $100 on a balance. Oh, your credit score goes down. What stupid crap is that? Like, if you could actually provide an economic system that didn't have all of this stupid crap and say, I can do it better, you could demonstrate that you can actually lead and do and run a country in a better way, that would really get people's attention. That would actually make it more likely that you could get a position in politics and actually do something because you've actually already done it.
Isn't that the funny stuff with our financial handling? Isn't that done intentionally?
Yes, to take advantage of people. Yep.
I mean, wouldn't that eventually become a problem of any system?
No. Like if it was specifically designed to not do those things, like could people manipulate it? Of course. Will it become a problem? Not necessarily. Like
Hmm.
the point is kind of who's in charge. Like if it was somebody like me who has a best of all possible worlds model, here's what we're supposed to do, don't take advantage of people, even if we can make money off of it, then yeah, we're done. You're not going to have that issue. You'd only have that issue if someone who was corrupt got in charge and like, oh, I want to make more money, so let's skim people out of money through this way. That's really cool. Like just making their making their credit score go down if they look at their credit score, which means they're not going to look at it as much, and so they're not going to pay as much attention, which is a problem. Or like the government, even though we know what your taxes are, we're going to make you do your own taxes, so that you're going to report anything we didn't notice, and we're going to make more money off of the poor people who don't report stuff, even though the rich people already know what they can and can't, don't have to report. So it's such a scam, especially in the tax case, because if you're poor, you're more likely to report things you don't need to report. And if you're rich, you're less likely to report things you don't need to report and more likely to get out of reporting things you should report. And so it just, that policy that every individual has to do their own taxes ends up benefiting the rich and taking from the poor, which is not good.
And adding to that whole wealth gap, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. I don't think the wealth gap is a problem. I think that the standard of living is a problem. I think that taking away from people's money that they require to live and increasing the cost of living, that's the real problem. The fact that this policy takes away people's money needlessly and takes away from and adds to their cost of living, that's the problem. Whether or not, I don't care about the wealth gap. I care that it's taking advantage of poor people and it shouldn't.
Is there anything we can do about that?
Yeah, make new policies, get a new president, elect TJump president. TJump will fix all of this.
Are you running?
Yeah.
Are you announcing your candidacy?
I can't actually. I'm only 33, so you need to be 35 to run for president. But maybe if I just get a fake ID at my local IHOP or something, then maybe I can run it. But yeah, do a write-in. Do a write-in campaign for TJump as president. That'll work.
Interesting. I didn't know you were 33.
Yep, just turned it 2-3 months ago, September 18th, my birthday.
Wow, happy birthday.
Thank you. You can send me a cookie. I accept cookies as presents. Presents are cookie presents.
I guess circling back to what we first started talking about, debating, are we ever going to see different kind of debates topics from you? Like I don't know if these even happen, but like debates with white supremacists, KKK members, skinheads, Yakuza. That'd be an interesting one.
What Yakuza? What is that?
Yakuza.
Yakuza.
Japanese mafia.
It's like, what? I don't have a jacuzzi? What? Yeah, Yakuza is really interesting because they actually provide a lot of services. They were one of the ones who responded first to the hurricane. So after the hurricane happened, they sent a lot of trucks and things to provide supplies for people in need. Even though they also do a lot of crappy, evil shit, they also do good shit. A lot more than like the American gangs who don't do jack shit.
Interesting. So would you have a debate or a talk with someone like that on your channel?
Sure. I don't know what we would talk about, but sure.
Well, I didn't know what I was going to talk about with you. I mean, it was the flat earth thing, but honestly, I was just really curious on your take about platforms, providing platforms, being nervous about providing platforms to the wrong people. But I've certainly held the opinion that you expressed, that like free speech should be free. The ideas should be able to stand on their own merits, and if you can't argue against those bad points, there's a problem with your argument, not with your position.
Yeah.
But what if? So I was talking to what did he call himself? A recovering skinhead. I think he said something to that effect. He said if you're talking with someone like that and you can't show why their idea is bad, if you try and engage them in a conversation or debate or something like that and you lose, then you've only further reinforced their position and you've done more harm. And the better play there would be to just walk away. Would you agree with that?
No. So again, confirmation bias is a thing. Confirmation bias means that what ultimately changes people's minds is very complicated and internal. Even if you're a really bad debater, you can still change someone's mind because it's about a lot of emotional things and a lot of internal things going on in their brain. And so if you're even if you're like the best debater ever, you present the best arguments against their position, confirmation bias can just make that be more cemented into their position. So I think that having those conversations and making them more public and getting better at them, having better conversations in and of itself is a good thing, regardless of whether or not you're good at it. It doesn't matter if you're good. It doesn't matter if you're bad at it. It's not, you're not going to convince them one way or the other, except in extremely, extremely rare cases, like 0.00000 something percent. So I don't think it matters that they could be more convinced or more solidified in their position. That's just how confirmation bias works. It happens in debates all the time. What matters is having the conversation, planting the seed, to use the biblical term, um, really showing the audience one way or the other what the best arguments are, and improving the arguments yourself. Like even if you're bad at a debate topic, having the debate will help you to improve. So I don't see it as an issue. I'm not concerned with this free speech thing. If you're bad at an argument and you lose, that's fine. Just admit it and get better. Like don't worry about whether that one debate they maintain or reaffirm their skinheadism. It doesn't matter. Like you'll have another shot. They'll talk to more people. You can just get better at it yourself. The fact that you learned that you weren't very good at it, you weren't very knowledgeable at it, is itself a good thing. You can now get better at it.
Okay. I'm just, I have to live that. I agree. I hope that's not like a pie in the sky kind of idea though. Like talking about cancel culture. I mean, it like let's say you're doing PR for this one company, you hold to these ideals, you have the opportunity to talk to someone with like very questionable morals or ethics or bad actions attached to their name, and the company finds out about it and they decide to cut ties with you. I mean, do we live in a system that works against holding to this ideal?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The cancel culture thing, the reactionary mentality, the fact that you work for this company and they employ you, therefore this company must be evil. So we will just do a boycott of that company until they fire you. Yeah, absolutely. We do have a social system that is contrary to those values, which is why I would be for, if I was president, I'd be for free speech protections in public, um, and in your own private residence, that you're not allowed to say, or you're not allowed to be fired for what you say, or you're not allowed to be banned on social media for what you say, not on the platform. I would definitely add protections for free speech and say, like, there's always that thing in political policy or in companies' policies that whoever's on this show does not necessarily represent the views of this whatever show. Like, we have to take that seriously. We have to be like, yeah, you can have an employee who has bad ideas, but as long as they don't express those ideas, as long as they do their job right, then you're not allowed to fire them. And the company shouldn't be held responsible because someone has a bad opinion that the feminists don't like. So if someone is a white supremacist or whatever, and they're a mailman, you're not allowed to like call up the UPS like you should fire this guy because he has a bad opinion. Like, no, it's not the UPS's fault. You shouldn't be able to like boycott the UPS because they employ somebody. They can say this is not our fault. There's a legal policy that says we're not allowed to fire people. Like we need to have those protections for free speech to allow for more of those kind of values, that we should really protect free speech and not just protect it from government. Like, who cares what the government thinks? Like, as long as they don't put people in jail, the people who we should be concerned about are the average human beings who judge others for what they say, which is more often than not wrong. Like, they're mostly just making fallacious connotations between what the person says and their evil motivations, which aren't there. It's completely asinine. We need protections against the stupid people who want to judge others for saying words they don't like.
Do you think hate speech isn't a thing then?
Or hate speech could definitely be a thing. Like, you can definitely say hate speech, but as long as, again, it's in private or not on the platform, you shouldn't be banned for it.
Well, I guess I worded my question poorly. Uh, so I guess there are laws against hate speech. You think these are counterproductive?
No, I think like the actual legal laws against speech are fine, like
Hmm.
slander and doing things like saying a company put a rat in my burger or whatever. Like I'm fine with those. Like those don't infringe on free speech. Free speech is more just the expression of opinions and ideas and positions. So I think that just blatantly lying that can cause damage to companies or people, yeah, that we can protect against that. That's fine. That's not really a free speech issue.
Okay. Would you say this is the position that Steven Crowder takes on speech?
I don't really know much about Steven Crowder. I mean, maybe because he leans more right, and the libertarian right community tend to take this position on free speech. So maybe.
Uh, I bring him up because this is actually a huge failing on my part. I try to um if there's a subject where there's a bunch of people who take different views on this subject, despite what my view is, I try to listen to the people on both sides so that I can, better educate myself on that. But I suck at picking people on the other side. So if someone were to ask me like, what's a good conservative person to like, listen to their ideas and things like that, I feel like I pick bad people like Steven Crowder, Ben Shapiro, Dinesh D'Souza. It's like I really need to educate myself better than this.
Yeah, I'd
Uh,
go with like. I mean, I don't know if people on the right are the best people to go for. Like, because I think more of the issue is left centrists are considered on the right when they shouldn't be. So like Steven Pinker, Sam Harris, those kinds of people, Brett Weinstein. Those are very smart, very intellectual people who say very rational things based on very good evidence, but they're considered on the right. They're considered fringe. They're all leftists. But those are the kind of people you should be listening to, like Steven Pinker, Sam Harris, Brett Weinstein. Those are great examples of people to listen to.
Sam Harris, I've definitely listened to quite a bit. But I mean, what usually fueled those things was the religion debate, which I, yeah, I'm like you. I'm an atheist. Uh, well, that term gets abused. What do you do when you have a discussion with someone and they like just straight up misrepresent you? And it doesn't matter like if you clarify or if you try to uh, really dial in on that nuance that they're completely missing.
Make fun of
Uh,
them, call them stupid.
well, I
So
kind of makes sense.
that's even though I say that in a very provocative way, the correct answer is once you express your position in such a way that it's so simple that everybody in the audience gets it, if the opponent is still misrepresenting you, then yeah, you can just call them stupid, and everybody in the audience can be like, yeah, he's stupid. So th- once you have the skill to represent your position in such a way that it's so clear or so easy to understand that everybody in the audience understands it, and your opponent is still misrepresenting it, it makes them look stupid whether you say it or not. And then you just calling it out just reinforces, or like, because part of the debate, one of the most important things in debate is accurately reflecting the emotions of the audience. So if you can accurately reflect the emotions of the audience, like facial expressions is a good way, or with words, or you can say what they're feeling when they hear an argument. That is a good way to make a debate engaging, to make conversations engaging for people listening. And so in the case where someone's misrepresented you after you've completely clearly stated your position and it's very obvious what you mean, yeah, just call them stupid. That's the best answer.
Interesting. I now that you say that, I have noticed you making some interesting facial expressions when debating flat earthers when they, go over a scientific idea. It's like, oh, it's like, no, that's not how that works. Interesting. Where'd you learn that from?
Experience, just
Okay.
practice doing it myself. Because yeah, like again, debate classes in college never teach you this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
This is not formal debate. You give an argument, they give an argument. This is more real life conversation. This is something you learn about conversation that you really need that in a debate format. If you're presenting information to the public, what you want to do is reflect the audience. If you can get them, like a performer, like an artist, a comedian, you want to reflect the emotions of the audience in order to get them to laugh. If you want to get them to be in the same mental state or emotional state that you're in, or you want to get into the same mental and emotional state they're in, that's why if you make the wrong joke in the wrong area because you're in a different kind of a mental state than they are, they won't find it funny. They'll find it offensive.
Hmm. Okay. When
One sec, I got a super chat. How do you differentiate between flat Earth nonsense and reality? If a flat earther says it, it's probably nonsense. That just that's sufficient.
I mean, even a broken clock is right twice a day, though,
Yeah, but not a flat earther. Broken flat earthers are never right.
right? When you're debating someone, though, is it correct to say that you're more speaking to the audience, you're not speaking to the person you're debating?
Yeah, I never my when I'm debating someone, I don't even see them as a person. I see them as a computer screen with an argument planted on the computer screen. So I see, okay, how would I respond to this argument? And it because of I have high function autism, Asperger's, it makes it very easy for me to do this. Whereas a lot of people get caught up in trying to see the other person or trying to talk to the other person. Whereas I just don't care. Like I never enjoyed conversations. I was doing it as a job essentially from the beginning, or as a way to try and find a way out of my depression. So I never cared about the other person. It was never about the other person. I was never interested in convincing them or um, wanting to have a conversation that led them to some alternative position. I never interested. I was just practicing my conversation skills. So I always saw it as here is a random sentence on a screen. How would I respond to this and make it seem emotive, make it seem like a real conversation? And so it's much easier for me than for most people to like just not care or not see the other person as relevant and to see it more as a hypothetical interaction.
Hmm. That's got to make it easier to interact with people like Darth Dawkins, right?
Oh
And
yeah,
Nathan Thompson.
for sure. Yeah, a lot of people take things personally when you're up against a mean opponent or a yelly opponent. Whereas I just see it as just that's just another sentence on a screen. How would I respond to this? And it makes it very entertaining. Like if you think of it like a computer screen yelling, "What are your preconditions for intelligibility?" Like that's a silly sentence. I wonder how what would be the best way to respond to that sentence.
And I hear it over and over. I mean, with all the times that people respond with what, I don't understand why they don't come up with a better way to express the idea.
Oh, because
Uh,
it sounds smart. Like using big words sounds smart. That's the entire crux of presuppositionalism. Is to say the most stupid thing possible in the most smart sounding way possible. Because their
mm.
position is well, the only way to have knowledge is because God told me so, and God told me so, therefore I had knowledge. That is their entire argument, and it's just the stupidest thing. No one takes that seriously. But when they phrase it with these really complicated terms, like what is your preconditions for intelligibility, it sounds much more legitimate than it actually is.
Are you frustrated by the position? I get
No,
frustrated by it.
no, I find it really interesting. I find it very fun. Like I think it's like just a hard video game. I think it's a fun little puzzle to solve, fun little puzzle to try and figure out how to address and have conversations with. So it's like all debates. I consider debates and conversations like a puzzle, like a Rubik's cube, a video game that I'm enjoying playing and trying to figure out how to get to the next boss, to beat the game, to overcome the conversational barriers.
Fair enough. I think I've heard you say Darth Dawkins is like your favorite person to talk to.
Yes.
There's only been two times though, right?
Yep. Are two times that are specifically our debates. Like he was on my live stream with Dr. Josh and Dr. No, I think it was Dr. Josh AMA, where he came on to yell at Dr. Josh for being an agnostic or something. So I've had several interactions with him outside of just the two debates, but I've only had two debates with him. But yeah,
Mm.
he's definitely my favorite person because he gets lots and lots of views. That is again the primary motivation for me is money. Give me money, please. Please donate to my Patreon. Money, give me support the Hot Blonde one. But yeah, so I think that the combination of the fact that it's an entertaining problem to solve, because Darth Dawkins is you're not only solving the problem of presuppositionalism, because there's lots of precepts I've talked to, Eli Elia, Tyler Vela, I talked to one recently. Um, they're it's hard to overcome the presuppositional ideology, and you have to come up with some kind of very specific methodology to address that. But then it's even harder because Darth Dawkins doesn't let you speak. You get like a sentence, and you have to answer his questions in a particular way. And learning the correct methodology to compress that argument against presuppositionalism in such a way that Darth will let you express it and not interrupt you is such a fun problem. I really enjoy trying to overcome that problem while talking to Darth. And in addition to the fact that I get tons of views doing it, yeah, Darth is my favorite person to talk to, favorite person to debate with.
Who do you think's come the closest to like getting something out that Darth has had to like stop the script and then address?
Well, I've done that multiple times where he's had to do that. He had no idea how to respond to a lot of the things I've said.
Oh,
But there are a couple times, I think there are a few other debates I've seen something similar. It's pretty rare though.
are those the times that you said that's happened? Can we find those on YouTube?
Yeah, I know that it was a conversation on Discord. Somebody posted a video where someone said Darth Dawkins was wrong about something, and at the end of the conversation, Darth was like, "Yes, I think you're right about that." That was hilarious. Like that's not a sentence you ever expect to hear out of Darth's mouth.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard that.
Yeah, so that one was pretty funny. It's listed somewhere on my Discord. I don't remember where it is though.
uh, I mean, you've kind of already touched on this. You see it as words on a screen, and you can kind of disconnect from the person. But when Darth is just being so, I, he acts like a petulant child.
Well,
I
he is one, so
Yeah, but then he'll ask you how old you are, and it's like, I'm 60 years old. I've been doing this for blah blah blah. It's like I, I I don't know. I hope he sees this.
oh, he watches all my content for sure.
Oh, fantastic. No, I'm nobody. I don't even think I'm particularly intelligent, even though I was bringing up the whole college thing and feeling like grew up in a bubble and then I went out into the real world. That might have came across as a little elitist, but no, I'm just another schmo in this world trying to make the best of my situation, whatever that happens to be. But hey, thank you so much for all of this. This is you're this talk has helped me look back at some of the situations I find myself in and remind me of the things that I hold as the kind of ideals that we need to pursue. Free speech. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great time coming on. Really appreciate you inviting me. Great talking with you, and definitely love to talk to you again sometime whenever you feel like it.
Cool. Thanks.
Awesome. I will get off and go get some more coffee and